There are two ventilation systems on the A340, the lavatory and galley system and the avionics ventilation system. The lavatory and galley system is completely automatic. Cabin air is passed through the lavatory and galley areas and is removed from these areas by an extraction fan. The fan pulls air into an extraction duct and then releases it overboard through a venturi. Note, the extraction fan runs continuously provided electrical power is available. There are no controls or indications associated with the lavatory and galley ventilation system. Now let's look at the avionics ventilation system. The avionics ventilation system provides cooling air for the avionics compartment and the flight deck instruments. Let's now look at how the system works. Air recirculated from the cabin is provided to the avionics equipment and is extracted by an extract fan. These fans operate continuously as long as the aircraft electrical system is supplied. On ground, with engines not running, air blown through the avionics equipment is discharged overboard via an overboard valve. An avionics ground cooling unit is installed to ensure the cooling of the avionics in case of extremely hot air outside. The cooling system is integrated into the avionics ventilation system but operates independently. The ground cooling unit operates on ground when the engines are stopped and the air in the avionics compartment is too hot. It draws air from the avionics compartment through a fan and rejects it overboard through the ground cooling valve. On ground, with inner engines running, or in flight, the ground cooling unit and the fan are stopped. The ground cooling valve is closed. In addition, the overboard valve is closed and the air from the avionics equipment is blown through the inboard valve under the forward cargo compartment, then overboard through the forward outflow valve. The avionics equipment ventilation controller, AEVC, controls the avionics ventilation system and sends opening and closing signals to the overboard, inboard, and ground cooling valves. The avionics ventilation overboard valve and the ground cooling valve are located below the forward fuselage. Both valves are inspected during the pre-flight walk-around for damage or obstruction. A section of the ECAM cabin pressure page displays avionics ventilation system information. The ground cool indication provides information on the state of the ground cooling system, and the vent extract on the overboard valve. Normally, they both remain white. The cabin pressure page displays the position of the ground cooling and overboard valves. In this example, the valves are open. This is the indication that you will see when the aircraft is on the ground. In this example, the valves are closed. This is the normal in-flight configuration. In some failure cases, the overboard valve is partially open. On the ECAM, the valve indication changes to an intermediate position. A ventilation panel on the overhead panel contains two push-button switches associated with the ventilation system. During the pre-flight cockpit scan, you should confirm that these switches are in the lights-out position. The avionics ventilation system will then operate automatically and will require no further pilot input.